Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Camps Audio. Admission is free. Come out, let's make memories at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton North.
All right, good night. Welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benshop. I was made to understand a lot of you were looking for me last evening. Sorry about that. I had the night off, and that's it. I'm a big man. There's no explanation at all. Big men do not explain things at all, and we just do things as we see fit. And so, if I was unable to be on last evening, it is what it is, right? But my apologies. I know some of you were looking for me. As you go up in age, you tend to have to use Bengay and all these things. You people who are up in age know that. Maybe I'll ask Mr. Nigel Hughes. Maybe he doesn't use Bengay, But he is with us this evening, attorney at law, Nigel Hughes. I must apologize. I'm not sure if you had your mic on to hear the Bengay joke, but good night. How are you, sir?
Hi, good night, Mark. I certainly heard your Bengay joke. I won't comment yet, but I have reached the stage where I'm anointing every night.
Absolutely. So let me just say thank you to all of our listeners, wherever you are. Good night and welcome to Straight Up. We're going to rock and roll. We have some issues to deal with. And we thank you all for sharing the link. Let's see what's happening. Hi, Sean Henry. How are you? Neville Seatal, also known as Civic. Speaking of Civic, let me go straight into Civic. I'm not sure if Civic used a little foul language or whatever. If he did in this video, I must apologize. But we have Nigel Hughes on with us, no stranger, attorney at law. And I'm not going to use the word prominent because he may ups me on that. He said, Mark, look, just Nigel Hughes. Let's go to Civic. Nigel, you remember Civic?
You mean PPP Civic or somebody called Civic?
We're not dealing with them as yet, but this guy here. Right after this little video, we'll get back into Nigel Hughes, our guest this evening.
Here in Guyana.
Here in Guyana? You see them advantage why you take for them people and they give some square peg contract and they can't sign them name? What? You see them advantage why you take for them people and they give some square peg contract and they can't sign them name? You see what going on with the project them right now? Thanks for going on. The project them is they got no standard, cheap material. Some of your contractor them in this region here can't read and write. They can't read or inch in imperial measurement. They do it in metric, they can't do that. You full them up with contract. They buy tundra, they buy truck, they buy excavator, them start eat food, then get big and fat. You know, them thing wrong and the people that can do the work, now get the work. None of them mechanic can beat me and my son for work in the street here. Bring them up. None of them. And the community knows that and they're giving us work. And you got them scrapping the government bike, the government tractor. You got them scrapping there. Go to the RDC and you going to see. Good.
So Civic, Nigel, Civic is a guy over 20 years ago, the PPPC under Barra Jagdeo kicked him and his family out of, I believe, somewhere there in right obliquely opposite the Pradoville one. They bulldozed the people's homes there many years ago, and Civic was one of them. We went in front of Jagdeo's house in 2001, and he and his wife slept there with his two little children, and they locked them up. And that is Civic. He's still fighting almost 20-something, 22 years after. He is still fighting. He's complaining about the contracts, and rightly so, that the contracts are being given out to friends and favorites and cronies and so forth, people who don't even know how to execute their contract. I know you have dealt with this before, but you're not surprised at what Civic just said there.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think that's a sort of a pretty familiar cry now around Guyana. People who are not necessarily equipped and capable or have a history of performing certain tasks are awarded pretty large contracts. So that's not surprising.
Not surprising at all, but that's no way to run a contract where competent people are being shut out, regardless of their ethnic background, but they're being shut out maybe because of their political affiliation, or maybe because they don't want to take kickbacks and bribe money and all these different things. Mr. Hughes, that's no way to run a country based on how we see this country is being run right now.
No, Mark, I think the obvious consequence there, and I think Civic said it very well, they'll use inferior material. They don't have the experience, and if you combine inferior material with the lack of appropriate experience and you're given a contract, whether it's to build a road, build a culvert, a dam, the consequence of that is pretty predictable. If you have inferior material, it will crack. If you don't have the necessary skills, the right engineering design, what then happens is it collapses. And who pays the price at the end of the day? It's the country and you, the citizens.
Well said. Despite the fact, and let's welcome all of our listeners, Keith Beresford, Savita Richards, and everyone, Denise Booker and others. Good night and welcome, Golly God, and all the guys. Nigel Hughes, attorney at law, is with us, no stranger to you guys. In terms of, we heard what Civic just said. Civic is known to be a supporter of the opposition. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And maybe because of that, he's being the PPP regime is being vindictive towards him. But we see there is sufficient evidence where African Guyanese contractors don't get a fair share of the pie at all, despite of what the regime attempts to say in terms of damage control. Talk to us a little bit about that, please. Discrimination in contracts.
Well, about a year ago, I think it is, Mark, I had published um, a report on the award of contracts generally, particularly by ethnicity, and in several areas, not just in road contracts, but in construction contracts. I think it was the Ministry, Central Housing and Planning. Only 18% of the award of contracts went to people of African descent. In the health industry, it was worse than that. I think it was almost 100% of the contracts, for major contracts, when I say contracts here, for the supply of medicines and medical supplies, went to one particular ethnicity. When we came to it was water, it was health, water. 100% of those contracts were given to persons who of one ethnicity. And that has not changed. We published that, might have been to 2022, certainly 2023, and there's not been any change in policy to rectify it. When you look at the natural resources and the management, for example, of people who get stone quarry permits and licenses, that's awful. It was less than 10%, I think, of the people who have been awarded licenses for stone were people of African descent. In terms of gold permits, i.e., permits to sell and export gold, out of 6 persons, only 1 was African Guyanese. None of that has changed. It's been 2 years since we published this information, and there has been no policy to change this. So this just gets perpetuated every single day. And what that means is one community will continue to get poorer and poorer, and the other communities' fortunes are going to increase exponentially in the opposite direction. And that has an inevitable consequence.
You know, and it appears that those who are in power just don't care. It's we keep talking and talking, and you have presented the evidence, and they just do not care. Why do you suppose they just don't care?
But I suppose they figure they can get away with it. There's no strenuous objection. I don't think they're particularly committed to any set of standards or principles. And so once there's no resistance, they proceed. It's, they have a carte blanche. Nobody's resisting. Nobody is attempting to protest what is happening. Figures are being presented. The ABC countries seem very quiet in their response to this, and I think it's clear, it's evident what's happening here.
You know, we saw the visit of Congressman Jonathan Jackson. What is your take? I know you were on not so long ago, and at that time the congressman was wrapping up his visit. I deliberately went on his Facebook page. There's no evidence, there's no photographs, there's nothing about his visit to Guyana. I'm not sure if it's deliberate, but how would you say that, assuming that you can go into the mind of Congressman Jackson, did you think he left Guyana, you would say, being pleased with what he heard?
Certainly on the reports, and I have no information that it directly comes from Mr. Jackson. I certainly didn't meet him, and all that I say is based on the reports that I've seen in the press and that are in the media. Certainly his visit to Buxton must have been quite an eye-opener, without a doubt. Sorry,
Yep.
to Maka must have been quite an eye-opener. That was, I understand that the people were very candid and in some case demonstrative in what they said. I then understand that he had a visit to Alboystown, which appeared to be arranged, let me leave it at that, which attempted to redress what clearly was the pretty awful impression that was given to him from Mako. So, I have to emphasize this. I've not had any interaction with him, as a matter of fact, other than I think one day reading that he was in the country. I wasn't that aware or up to date in what was happening with him. But I'm surprised. Well, I shouldn't say I'm surprised. The fact that he hasn't yet publicly issued a statement perhaps has to do with I don't know how they're processing that. I don't know if the government has been attempting to intervene to say, look, we rather you say nothing than say something that embarrasses us. There may be a lot of things that are going on there that we're not aware of.
Or maybe he has taken a position at this point in time not to say anything at all. All right.
Maybe.
So, yeah, maybe not. But Nigel, I want you to take a look at this, sir, and give us your opinion on this piece of video, this little interaction there while the congressman was in Mucka.
Thank you so much for that. But if I could have a point of privilege, this is a family dialogue. If one person wants to talk longer, I am available to listen. So we're going to do this like we're sitting in the kitchen. I want to hear from you. I want to know the challenges. And so I'm not here representing your government. I'm here as a representative from my district of the 1st District of Illinois, and I want to hear from you. And I hope you would be as candid as you can. Some people are going to take longer because they have more to say, and I appreciate that. So in that spirit, I thank you.
Mr. Hughes, here it is, the congressman had to intervene. Persons that apparently the agenda that the PVP set, their objective, it backfired on them. The congressman intervened. Let's get your opinion, please.
Well, I'm certainly very happy that the congressman not only intervened, but he laid down what the ground rules were. So he wasn't attempting to limit anyone to a particular period of time to speak with him, and he certainly wasn't attempting to support any attempt to orchestrate a particular impression. The fact that he intervened meant that he was exercising, like he said, a point of privilege. He was the guest of honor, and he was saying, look, I'm exercising this privilege that I have, that you've invited me here to participate in, and I am going to hear what everybody has to say.
Absolutely. Let's just take a quick break here to remind folks that there's a public meeting to banish the N-word. That's the N-word, meaning the Negro word, from the police force and any other governmental agency. And this is, you're all invited. That's tomorrow, 5 p.m. at Congressional Labor College. Be there. Dr. David Hines, the moderator. You have attorney at law, Don Cush. You have former Commissioner of Police, Winston Felix. Vashti may be there, and Simona Brooms as well, former member of parliament and minister. And you have also Miss Olive Sampson is scheduled to be there, amongst others. It's a public meeting. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock, it starts on the dot at Critchlow Labor College. You've got to be there, guys. I forgot to tell you, there's another person there. Nigel is going to be there as well. Nigel Hughes. All right, so let's move away from that for just a quick moment, and let's get to how the PVP, how they treat workers in Guyana. The sugar workers, this is according to Village Voice, the sugar workers strike for 1 day. Government responded almost immediately. But teachers have been on strike for over 50 days and not a word from the government. Or in fact, if they say anything, they are fighting against the teachers, but they met immediately with sugar workers. How unhealthy is this, Mr. Hughes, for Guyana?
Well, Mark, you just touched on it. The sugar workers go on strike for 1 day, 1 single day, and their demands are met. The teachers, absolutely critical to the development of the country, absolutely critical to the education of all of the students in the country, have been on strike for weeks. And they've gone to court, they've come back from court, they've tried mediation, they have engaged with the government. And throughout that entire period, the government has refused, absolutely refused, to reach any form of compromise with them. It's unfortunate that, what is clear here is that the sugar workers are of one particular group, the teachers predominantly are of another group, and it's quite possible that people may draw the inference that this has to do with politics, and politics in Ghana, sadly, in a society that is as divided as ours, invariably has to do with race. So it speaks for itself.
Certainly,
And I dare say we don't depend on sugar to keep the economy afloat. We certainly depend on teachers to ensure that the young people are educated so that the entire country will be in a better place in the future.
Absolutely. We depend on the teachers more than we depend on sugar. Workers, back in the days, things have changed. The PPP has wrecked the sugar industry. 200 million white elephant skeleton sugar factory not being put to use. Sugar workers were being tear gassed and all manner of things. And so under the PPP regime, I'm saying this to say that the PPP doesn't demonstrate, they have not shown an interest in the welfare of sugar workers in the country. Nevertheless, they are playing political football with these sugar workers. The sugar workers decided that they're going to strike. They sneezed, and the PPP rushed to wipe them. As when you sneeze, you wipe their nose. That's what the PPP did. Now, if they are going to do that to the sugar workers in equal measure, they should do that to other workers. Instead, we see the sort of treatment meted out to the teachers. The PPP is callous. They are very heartless towards the teachers of our nation. And now moving on, we have some other issues to deal with. I have noticed indeed that the Guyana police force, they're no longer labeling, they're no longer putting on what is called the mugshot of individuals. And if we can get that, please, operator, on the screen. There we go. Thank you. We have Kamraj Prasad, called Pandit, and his date of birth and so forth. Date of arrest, the 11th, 23rd, or whatever, offense, murder. No description, absolutely no description of ethnicity. Does that come as a surprise? And I'm putting that there, and I'll show you something else here. This is as recent as today. And I'm just using this as an example. Are we seeing a change in the Guyana police force as it relates to describing individuals, their ethnicity, and so forth? This is a mugshot, and this is just plain. No tags, no nothing. You're the attorney. Please explain it to us.
Mark, I don't think we're seeing a change in the Guyana police force because we haven't heard from the Commissioner of Police since this incident with the word Negro has arisen. But clearly here, there is this a mugshot? This looks as if some people are standing against the wall. This is the official shot.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it doesn't even have the name of the person. That's why I'm why I am curious as to if it's a mugshot. Mugshots at least tend to identify the people, and they normally have the offense, as they do here, as in this image that you have here. The other image you had, clearly no attempt to even provide the name of the person. So I'm not sure if that's an official release, what the purpose of that is.
It is an official release on the PPP's on the police website.
Well, this is cause for concern because you just release photographs. There's no information, no name, no offense.
Yeah, they have names in the caption, but without reading the caption, you wouldn't know. But go ahead.
No. I was going to say this is an interesting new development. You just put the photographs of the persons, no indication that they're on their arrest and for what offense, as opposed to the one before. I don't think we're seeing a change. I think what you're seeing is a little bit of PR from the police at this point.
Certainly nothing to rush to. If you're now joining us, it's 9:30. Good night and welcome to Straight Up. With me is Nigel Hughes, attorney at law. The other thing that we want to touch on, let us go quickly to this here. Cartoon. This guy on the right looks like someone. Let's check in the audience as we involve the audience, members of the audience, who that person on the right looks like to you guys with the big PNC on his forehead. I'm looking at you, Robin. Robin Morgan, Sabish Tishana, all the names, Rhonda Spencer Tom, Debbie Collins, James, Hazel Johnson, um, Golly God, Corrine Jones, all of you. Wayne Caesar, good night to you, sir. Who this person on the right looks like? Somebody said BJ. Right? Sherry Rose said BJ. Brandy Anderson says Nigel Yu. Who else? Come on, guys. And who the person on the left looks like? Abi D'Souza, sorry. Eula Williams says Ali. Rudy Hines, we're talking about serious business. Rudy Hines is asking for lemon. So everybody's mixed up here. They're saying this person on the right looks like BJ. Some of them are saying it looks like Irfan Ali, and some are saying it looks like Nigel Hughes. Somebody just said it looks like Ashney. But this person on the right is supposed to be Nigel Hughes, our guest tonight, Nigel Hughes. You see that big PNC on his forehead? And then the person on the left, the very short person on the left, is the acting commissioner of police, 800 or 83 square miles. That's Mr. Clifton Hicken. And he's saying here, but in our defense, the PNC has used for its own convenience the term House Negro in their critics. And then the person who's said to be Nigel saying House African, please. And this is a cartoon in the Stabrook News. Mr. Hughes, talk to us, please.
You know, this cartoon is classic. Well, I think we should first of all say where the cartoon was published, which is in the Stabrook News.
Thank you.
And this cartoon is built with classic subliminal racist assumptions. The cartoonist, Mr. Harris, has placed in my forehead the word PNC, clearly intending to say that once you are African Guyanese, you must be PNC. And therefore, in his mind, there is no way an African Guyanese can stand up for the dignity of the African people without being associated with the PNC. I have no difficulty with if he wants to associate with the PNC, but it's one has to understand the racist underlying and undertones of that. Mr. Harris is well aware that I have never been a member of the PNC. Many years ago, when I was in politics, I was chair of the AFC. But I have consistently, long before I got into politics in 2011, been speaking out for all people of all races who have been abused. So what he's trying to do here is to say that once you speak of and about things that are offensive to the African people, then you must be PNC, because the consequence of that is the way that they want the people to think about it. Oh, it's another black people's story, and it's political, so don't pay attention to it. And in this particular case, the Guyana police force has been consistently using a term that is offensive to all black people, whether they are PNC, PPP, WPA, GAP. All black people are offended that the country of Guyana officially uses the word Negro. Not just the police force, they use it in the medical field, and there are other in immigration. And that is an insult to everybody. To attempt to say that because you have spoken up about it, you must be PNC. So in other words, they're saying, look, this is political, you must leave it alone. I have a couple other things to talk about it, but just let me leave it there for this, for the time.
You know, I'm.
Oh, sorry. Let me ought to make this point. Sorry, if I could.
Go ahead.
The fact that the PNC or any other party might have been in power when that term was used cannot be a justification today for why it continues to be used. This is a term that's offensive to African people generally in Guyana. So don't come and tell me because some other party was there, which the African people traditionally voted for, it's somehow a palliative, and therefore you mustn't get upset. That is really what they're saying. I mean,
And that is what
today the vice president was particularly offensive, but I suspect that we're going to go there.
which vice president?
As far as I know, we only have one. There's another one.
There's supposed to be the prime
We
minister
have.
is the first vice president.
Oh,
According to
you
our
don't-
constitution, the prime minister is the first vice president.
forgive me.
Our constitution doesn't have a position that caters for vice president. We have first vice president, second vice president, third vice president, fourth vice president. So which vice president are you making reference to?
Of the vice
Of the
presidents, I
two
was
vice
certainly
presidents.
of the two. I was not referring to the prime minister.
Okay. Well, I almost forgot we do have a prime minister in Guyana. But the second vice president, Barra Jagdeo, had nobody really pays him much interest at his press conference these days, anyways. But before we get to that, what about this here from Leslie Ramsamy, the most controversial minister of health in the history of Guyana, where several persons died while he was minister of health under questionable circumstances. We also know about the accusations or allegations of sophisticated laptop that was brought into Guyana through Roger Khan and that was used for all manner of nefarious acts based on what was revealed in a U.S. court. This is Leslie Ramsamy now. He has a voice concerning the Negro, the painting of African Guyanese suspects as Negroes. This is what this guy has to say of all person, Leslie Ramsamy. He says, sheer hypocrisy. Negro, house slave, and soup drinker all imply inferiority. What on earth is this individual Ramsamy trying to say? Nigel?
You're asking me to imagine what Mr. Ramsamy is trying to say. I read this article, and I have to tell you, given the newspaper it was published in and its content, I was really perplexed because it's not the sort of article that you would expect coming from that particular publication. However, again here, this is an attempt to conflate, and I agree, all these terms, he's correct. Negro, house slave, and soup drinker are all terms that are particularly offensive. But the issue here is the state using the term Negro to define African Guyanese people. House slave and soup drinkers are not official terms that are in the government lexicon or in any official report. Those are terms that people use when they're upset and describing other people. But the issue here is the state of Guyana is using the word Negro. And Dr. Ramsamy here clearly in his article was saying it is unacceptable, which is and therefore it should be removed, which is a completely different slant to what the vice president took in his press conference.
Yeah, different slant indeed. The second vice president, Barra Jagdeo, forget about him for now. But the fact that this guy is upset about house slave, he has never defended that, soup drink and these, and you're correct. This is just normal everyday talk. Now, you can't equate that with folks fighting and saying that they must remove that description of Negro, and suddenly this guy has a voice. But Nigel, isn't it the same thing that this guy Leslie Ramsamy was quiet when Jagdeo and others in the PPP were calling people like Ramjatan and Moses Nagamutu, former Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, Nimakaram, Katahar, Korhi, the sellout, all manner of derogatory names. Where was Leslie Ramsamy?
Well, you've just asked the important question. I think the level and tone of our political discourse is awful. It's to be condemned strongly. It indicates a complete lack of civility. it also reflects very poorly on the quality of our education. Because if the only language in which we can engage with people who don't share our views is abusive, derogatory, offensive terms, that is really a poor commentary on us rather than anything else. And we know what happens in the National Assembly in Guyana. I don't know how many people can actually bear to sit through a single sitting. But, all the stuff like dildo and all kinds of other things are part of the sort of pretty standard exchange between parties, between members of parliament. And, it impacts the rest of the society. The rest of the society then thinks it's okay to behave this way. So, you go down the road and you get into some little traffic spat, you feel entitled to behave abusively to whoever might be the person that caused you to get into some difficulty in the traffic.
Indeed, 41 minutes after 9 o'clock, Nigel Hughes is with us, attorney at law. Let's remind you guys that tomorrow, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock tomorrow, Critchlow Labour College. Don't miss it. There's this public event, public meeting to banish the N-word. There can be no respect without self-respect. This is sponsored by IPADA G. All those members are going to be there, and other folks will be there tomorrow at Critchlow Labour College. Rhonda Lane and others, hope to see you guys there. We will be broadcasting that live right here on 107.1 FM. Again, good night to all of you. Where are we going with this here? The regime, all they're talking about, they agree. All of them agree that this word should be banished. But yet the Commissioner of Police is silent. The acting Commissioner of Police is silent. You mentioned that earlier. You're not surprised that he's silent, Mr. Hughes?
Well, Mark, I am more disappointed because effectively, for me, if you get caught with your pants down, the first thing you do is you apologize. You say, look, my officers use that term. They ought not to have been using it. We have been using it for a long time. It is our mistake. We apologize to the Guyanese, and particularly the Guyanese of African origin, that in our use and description of our citizens, we have used this offensive term. That's the first thing I think he should have said, because it clearly is an affront. He has said nothing. It is now over a week since this issue has been in the news. It is now over a week where people have been speaking constantly about it, and we have not heard a single peep. So what that means? After, and everybody has said, I haven't heard anybody other than Anil Nandalal say that, it was in use for 180 years. Why you kicking a stink? No, only because Mr. Jackson's in the country. Other than him, every single person, including Dr. Ramsamy, has said this is offensive. Now, if you are head of the institution that has been caught using an offensive term to such a large category of citizens, the first thing one would expect you to do would be to apologize. But you have chosen to stay silent. That compounds the insult. It means that you have not even found it necessary to address the fact that the African people have been subject to your abusive terms. This is 10 days, and he hasn't found it necessary. This is compounding the insult. So it means that from his perspective, we are not worthy. We are not worthy from the Guyana Police Force perspective of an apology and a clear, definite statement that this term will be expunged from all police records. That is so simple, Mark. And the fact that he has not said anything publicly after 10 days. The Ethnic Relations Commission has said that they are going to engage him. He has not even said that he has been engaged, and we undertake to expunge this. So to all those little children growing up, to all those people who want to aspire, who are African, they want to aspire to be policemen, they have to understand that they're going into an institution where the leader of that institution has not even had the decency to apologize for the use of a term that's offensive. And what's worse, Think of those thousands of Africans in the Guyana police force who every single day have to describe people that look like them in the most derogatory terms. Imagine every day you got to go to work, and every time you write a statement or you write something, you have to say this is Negro. And it's not as if you are describing somebody else, you are describing yourself. So imagine the damage that is done to you psychologically, that you reach the stage where it doesn't even matter to you. You are so far gone that if they asked you to write, I am a slave, you would write it. Because you have been so battered, completely battered, that every day you use the term which everybody knows has been derogatory. And the leader of that institution, your commissioner of police, has not had the single decency to say to you as an African policeman, I am so sorry that we missed this. All they can say at the end of the day, oh, it's Mr. Hughes brought it up. And that is their beef. And every single second, they are continuing to self-describe themselves in terms that are offensive and derogatory.
Well
but
said.
Today, allow
Go
me
ahead.
to just say this.
Sure.
The vice president, I know you don't want to talk about it, in his press conference said, oh, they are being emotive. The word is Negro. They're trying to conflate it with the other N word. Mark, that got to be the worst insult that you could say to the African people.
And
other
who said that? Who said that again?
The vice president. He's saying,
The
oh, they're
second
trying
vice
to be
president.
emotive.
And that's okay. It's the worst, yeah. But nobody's really surprised. Nobody in the audience is surprised at all that he would say that.
But Mark, this is what he's saying. What he's saying is this. Or if you want to play it, we can play it, and then I can come
to that and hear what the second vice president, so to speak, has to say.
Action to the police describing his client as a male Negro person. And so since then,
let's just go right back.
We urged them from opposition to defend local interests, and they did not. They could have easily passed the local content law too. They did not. So this is something that we need to tackle. And since
just to let our listeners know that he became confused. He's not sure what he's talking about. Something just went wrong there. But let's continue.
On this issue of Nigel Hughes, maybe I just continue in the same vein.
It's confused.
So many of you know that Nigel Hughes, a few weeks ago, took objection to the police describing his client as a male Negro person. And so since then, he has written to the ERC, and they have public meetings now, playing on this banish the N-word. Now, the N-word is not Negro. The N-word is another word, but playing on people's emotions. So what are the facts? Every one of you here know who's gone to the police, or maybe even at the hospital, that when they write up your chart, they often put East Indian or Negro. This is not today. Since the colonial era, it's nothing new. The police, that's what they describe you. East.
Nigel, take a run at that as we look at the time.
Okay. This is the worst insult. And here's what the insult is. And I'm using an example just to highlight the point. A woman is beaten by her father when she's growing up. She gets married, she goes into an abusive relationship, and she's beaten every day by her husband. Degraded, dishonored. The one day comes when she's not going to take it anymore, and she goes to the police station and makes a report. And the husband comes and says, "What are you complaining about? Your father used to beat you, and I used to beat you, and you never complained before. So why are you complaining today?" And furthermore, this is where the vice president is the most offensive to the people of African descent. He says they're trying to conflate Negro with the other N word. You know what that means? He's trying to say you're lucky that you're not called the other N word, but you should be grateful that you were called Negro. Do you believe that this is the vice president of Guyana saying to the African people in Guyana, after this issue has been raised, that you're lucky? Effectively, that's what he's saying. It's the other N word, they're trying to conflate it. But dear Mr. Vice President, both N words are offensive. And if you had any decency and dignity, your government would start off with an apology to the African people that in 2024, officially in the records of the government and the police and in the ministry and the medical field, you're describing them as Negro. Don't get into whether or not it is Nigel Hughes who raised it and why he was silent for so long. You have described your citizens in the most offensive term. You get caught, and all you can say is, "Why the man only raised it now?" The fact that it could be raised, and irrespective of by whom, is an insult to the people of African descent. And then you have the Attorney General who advises the government on things legal, saying, "Look, why are you keeping so much noise? It's only because another Negro was in the country that you keeping this noise. We've been calling y'all this for the last 180 years when the colonialists had it, and now we take over. You ain't had it." And then when he turns around, he says, "Felix was the commissioner. He ain't do nothing about it." As if that is a justification or excuse for why you have the Guyana Police Force today using it. And you cannot start off by saying, "Look, we are apologetic about the fact that this has still been used." You start off by saying, "Oh, we agree it is a bad term." What is so difficult to say to the people of African descent? We apologize for this completely offensive misdescription of you in our official records. And I hope that people see it for what it is.
Let's just spend
There
another.
is no decency at all.
Absolutely none. No decency at all, Barajatdale. If you're watching, absolutely no decency. Let's continue, please, for a minute.
Or Negro. That is from the colonial era. Nigel Hughes is fully aware of this. I have had my staff research how many cases he has taken to court in
Mark,
the
can you just
past.
pause there? I want to say
where
something.
his
Yeah, I was gonna, but go right ahead,
okay.
sir.
This is what I want to say. This is the vice president saying he is now going to spend time and resources to research Nigel Hughes's case instead of saying we will put together a body of people or a commission to look through all of our laws, to look through all of our regulations, and everywhere that we see the word Negro used officially, we will expunge it. No, that doesn't cross his mind. He wants to go look for information to find out what, where Nigel Hughes had a client who was described as male Negro. The perspectives here are just staggering.
Staggering indeed. Another 30 seconds on what this individual has to say.
Gave statements to the police, and they were described as a young male Negro, etc. He saw those statements. He never objected in the past. You can have maybe 50 cases I can find where he saw this before.
So because you saw it before, didn't say anything, it justifies everything now.
But even, yeah, well, let me start off by saying we definitely have always objected to this, and my junior attorneys can deal with it. But secondly, this is a description, as you would know, because you've been in the police force. The police custody, not force. When people go to the police station, witnesses, that's when the police write down the description.
True.
100% of my clients will confirm. I always advise them, and you have been the beneficiary of this advice, never sign any statement to the police. So the police don't have an opportunity to give you a description because you have nothing to say. The cases where the police use male Negroes, where they beat up the people and get them to sign confessions, well, I am not there when the police are beating up the people. I see that afterwards. And I get hired. This is the other strange interpretation they have. I get hired to get people out of trouble. Out of trouble. In the case of Kadaki, I happened to be there when he was being arrested, and they were signing his, describing him. I am invariably never present when people are arrested, unless, of course, I carry them into the station. So it's not a case of objecting. I can only object when I see them write it. I cannot object after they have written it. But even if that is the case, even if I had seen it 100,000 times, is that a defense for you to justify your state police using that term today? As if somehow, because you were quiet before, you're supposed to stay quiet like a good Negro and accept it. In other words, what is he saying is, what y'all keeping this noise about? Y'all didn't deserve to be described any other way. We've been doing this for 180 years, and this is not really a big issue. That is a commentary on him, because he doesn't see it as a big issue.
And only because they've been caught with their pants down. Mr. Hughes, just 30 seconds more of this guy.
Started practicing recently. He's been practicing a long time. So all of this, in the 5 years under APNU 2, it was there. In the 28 years under the PNC, it was there. From since colonial period. Now, on the day that Kidaki Amsterdam was arrested, and he was arrested for allowing a person on his program to say that he will behead, cut off the head of the president, Anil Nandalal Ashni Singh, my head, and put them on a stake by the seawall. So on that day, suddenly Nigel Hughes realized that the statement that he saw taken by the police had male Negro, described this as male Negro. It was a classic case of misdirection. So you create an issue about a matter that is not new.
A classic case of misdirection. Mr. Hughes?
We create an issue. Imagine this guy is saying, look, the fact that we're describing you in these offensive terms that his own minister, Ramsamy, says is offensive, is not a new issue. Therefore, you should stay quiet and allow it to continue. That is what your vice president is saying to you. Isn't it absolutely amazing? We really are behaving like Negroes. Because if the vice president says to you, this is not an issue, a term that is offensive, this is not an issue, why are you complaining? Well, y'all been taking it for a long time.
It happened a long time, and nobody complained. People have been complaining for a long time. including not to cut it, including the 23 plus years of PPP in office as well. He spoke about the 28 of PNC. He spoke about the 5, but he didn't talk about the 23 years, 12 of which he was in office. They did absolutely nothing. But Nigel, if we just continue to wrap up our show and to wrap up with this individual.
As you know, it's emotional. And you forget that there is a threat So kill the president, chop off his head, and everything else. It is the usual way of operating. Now, they have a public meeting on this. They wrote,
looks as though he's really afraid of the public meetings, but we'll continue with him.
today at cabinet, the issue came up, and the cabinet uniformly said, we will accept, if these are old colonial things, because many people, I don't want to be called East Indian. I'm not an East Indian too. I'm not from the East Indian. It's part of your, it's not nationality, it's ethnicity that sometimes they describe. But I'm Guyanese too. And nobody has ever used their at the press conferences, in our speeches, etc. It's mainly Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese.
All right, so he's not making much sense there, but he said it. The matter was brought up in cabinet. Take a bite of that.
Mark, have you seen any apology from any official person, whether the police, the government,
None.
the prime minister, who happens to be African Guyanese, saying, look, we are terribly sorry that this has survived for so long. It's offensive, and we should have removed it a long time ago. And we're taking urgent, immediate steps to have all government documentation reviewed with a view to have this term removed and replaced by the term African Guyanese. Nothing. The Commissioner of Police don't even think it's worthy of comment after 10 days.
He's afraid to comment.
You know, whether afraid or otherwise.
He took a shot. He took a shot, Nigel, at the former commissioner.
We will consult with the people who matter, but not Nigel Hughes.
I love it. I love it.
We
I
will
love
consult.
it. We will consult with the people who matter, but not Nigel Hughes.
Explain.
I don't want them to consult with me. I want them to tell the African Guyanese why they're still describing them as Negro. Take Nigel Hughes out of it. This is not a Nigel Hughes issue. I just happened to be there at the time. So he's almost saying, look, if Nigel Hughes didn't raise it, it would have been perfectly justifiable to continue this practice. We got to be living in Cloud Lulu land.
It's the public meeting. It's the fight back that they're getting from majority of the people in Guyana. They're getting the fight back, and lots of our East Indian Guyanese brothers and sisters are on board. They're saying, no, this is unacceptable. Mr. Hughes, as we prepare to wrap up, close off with this guy.
Felix is the main offending character. He's resurfaced now. He, under the police, under his tenure, probably used this 1 billion times. And suddenly he finds the word offensive, the Negro word. Because
we'll close off with him on that. Again, Nigel. Again, this
Mark,
guy.
I could only, as a Guyanese, pray that we have different leadership that understands the issue. This response here is so offensive that I think there are Guyanese Africans and non-Africans who are seething at the contempt that this man has displayed to the people of African descent. He's saying, look, we are keeping nice about this. The colonialists describe you also. We've been doing it for so long. It come through all them time, even when your party been in power. It's saying, so don't complain, shut your mouth and continue. And don't get cranked up by Nigel Hughes. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I hope, and this is my genuine hope, that after all of this that has happened, that they find the compassion to go forward and say, look, we messed up. We're bigger than that. We are going to make sure that no way will the African people be subject to any sort of slight like this again. And we're going to make sure that this is expunged, and we're going to give official directions. We, the African people, have another responsibility. We have to make sure that everybody understands what is the consequence of defining you as Negro. And therefore, we have to meet, we have to discuss, and we have to educate.
Well said, Mr. Nigel Hughes, attorney at law, and Bara Jagdev is advertising tomorrow's public meeting. He's advertising it. We should send him a nice puri or or black pudding or plantain chips or something, and thank him for advertising. Tomorrow's public meeting, 5 p.m., 5 p.m. sharp. What's the reasoning behind these public meetings now on this, the Negro term, to banish it?
Well, Mark, it is clear that this term is still in the official use by agencies. We know the police, and I believe the medical field are doing it. What we're doing here is, this is not just a call for the removal of the word. This is a discussion which the African people are having about how the state continues to degrade them, denigrate them. And so it must now reach the level where we are part of this country like everybody else, and we are entitled to be defined by the terms that we accept for defining ourselves. And therefore, we will not only demand that it has to be removed, but we will continue. We have an obligation to our African brothers and sisters and to anybody who wants to learn about this question of dignity, self-respect, into every race. Every race is entitled to it. We are going to continue our meetings. We are going to go out into Linden. We're going to go into Berbice. We are going to go into all areas where there's significant concentrations of people of African descent and have discussions with them, not only about the N-word, but the consequences of it in terms of their exclusion from real development in the economy, about their continued lower levels of development, and their continued poor performances, and perpetuated. This is how we have to build our own strength going forward. And that is going to continue. There are going to be a series of meetings. This is just the start.
A series of meetings. This is just a start, not just about the N-word, but other things happening in the country. And I think that is what Barrett Jagdeo and others in the PPP are afraid of. Mr. Hughes, we will carry tomorrow's meeting right here on 107.1 FM, starting at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock at Critchlow Labor College, guys. Rhonda Lane and the entire crew. Hope to see you guys there. Rhonda, they will open. I think Dr. David Hines may open for a couple of questions from the audience or so. And I know you will be there for that, Rhonda Lane, and all others. Mr. Hughes, thank you so much. Closing remarks, please.
Mark,
and please, closing remarks, and I'm not going to tempt you by just putting this racist type of view. This is not the first. There seem to be regular at this now, frequent publishing of these sort of racist cartoons.
Mark, I just want to say again, let me take the opportunity to thank you for the continued work that you do to educate people, to bring them up to date with what's happening, to assist in the analysis of what's going on. And I thank you for the promotion of this event tomorrow. There will be other events. And this is about getting people conscious about what the society they're living in and understanding what's really going down.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hughes. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to see you guys tomorrow, 5 o'clock, right here on 107.1 FM, live from Critchlow Labor College. Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. All right. Again, don't forget tomorrow, 5 p.m. at Critchlow Labor College. The moderator, Dr. David Hines, and they have attorney at law, former magistrate also, Dawn Cush. She is going to be there. Former commissioner of police. He will tell you guys all about what happened in terms of this description of Negro. It is not like the Guyana police force could say, we are going to stop using it. Barrett Jagdeo, they had an opportunity then, and they failed because they felt, Barrett Jagdeo and others in the PVP felt comfortable describing folks as Negroes. You Negroes, you Negroes. That is how racist folks like Barrett Jagdeo in the PPP are. They are racist, and they just got caught with their pants down. Looking forward to seeing you guys at tomorrow's event. 5 o'clock, guys, Critchlow Labor College. Remember, 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock. Thank you all so much. Your moderator again for tomorrow is David Hines, and Nigel Hughes is going to be there. Olive Sampson is going to be there. Simona Brooms is going to be there. Winston Felix is going to be there. and others. Miss Vashti, hopefully she can make it. She's a little bit under the weather, but it's going to be a packed house tomorrow at Critchlow Labor College. Please, guys, if you see this link on 107.1 FM, this flyer, share it. Don't have Jack Dave alone sharing it. You guys share it as well. The joint says 5 p.m., not 5 o'clock, Black people time. Thank you so much, The Joint. 5 p.m. Please, guys. 5 p.m. is 5 p.m. We're starting on time. And it's going to be not more than 2 hours. So some speakers, if they're long-winded, please don't be long-winded tomorrow, speakers. My name is Mark Benchop. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys back tomorrow, same place, same time. Maybe we'll have a show early in the day. That is if Wayne Caesar is up to it. But for now, my name is Mark Benchop. God bless you all. And pray for the teachers in Guyana. Pray for the teachers as well. So long.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by 1 vote, they're losing it by data.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.